The transport ship shook violently as Jake pressed his face against the small window. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, and the computer kept repeating the same message over and over. Emergency landing required. Emergency landing required. Wasn't supposed to be on this route. He was just a plant researcher who studied how things grow in space. His job was simple. Figure out how to grow food on different planets so humans could survive anywhere in the galaxy. But when the regular transport to Earth got canceled, he had to take whatever ride he could find. Now, he wished he had waited. The ship lurched again, throwing him against the wall. Through the chaos, he could see a massive space station floating. In the darkness ahead, it looked old and forgotten, with most of its lights turned off. Only a few sections still glowed with that familiar blue light that meant life support was working. Kepler 7 station. The pilot's voice crackled through the speakers. "I'm putting you down there, kid. My ship won't make it any further with this engine trouble. Someone will come get you in a few days." Jake wanted to argue, but the ship was already moving toward the docking bay. He had read about Kepler 7 in school. It was one of those research stations built way out in the middle of nowhere, orbiting a giant gas planet that looked like a swirling marble of green and gold. The station had been abandoned 3 years ago, when funding got cut and everyone moved back to the inner planets. The docking was rough. Jake grabbed his small bag and stepped out into the station's airlock. The pilot didn't even wait to make sure everything was okay. As soon as Jake was clear, the transport ship pulled away and disappeared into the dark space beyond. Jake stood alone in the docking bay, listening to the quiet hum of the station's systems. The air felt stale, but breathable. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across the metal floors. Everything looked exactly like what you would expect from an abandoned place. Dust on the surfaces, few pieces of equipment left behind, and that eerie feeling that someone had just walked away. One day and never came back. He pulled out his handheld scanner and checked the air quality. Everything seemed normal. The station's main computer was still running basic life support, which meant he could take off his helmet and breathe normally. That was good news, since his portable air supply would only last about 6 hours. Jake started walking through the corridors, looking for the main living area. His footsteps echoed strangely in the empty halls. The station was bigger than he had expected, with multiple levels connected by tube-like walkways. Through the large windows, he could see the gas giant slowly rotating below, storms creating beautiful patterns in the atmosphere. After about 20 minutes of wandering, he found what looked like the central hub. This area had probably been where people ate meals and relaxed during their off hours. There were still tables and chairs scattered around, a few personal items left behind, a coffee cup here, a tablet there, as if everyone had just stepped out for a moment. But something felt wrong. Jake couldn't put his finger on it at first. Then he realized what was bothering him. The station was too clean, too organized. If it had really been abandoned for 3 years, there should have been more dust, more signs of decay. Instead, looked like someone had been taking care of the place. He was examining a plant growing in one of the hydroponic gardens when he heard it. Sound like singing, but not quite human. The voice was beautiful and strange, with notes that seemed to hang in the air longer than they should. It was coming from somewhere above him. Jake followed the sound through another corridor and up a spiral staircase. The singing got louder as he climbed. At the top, he found himself on an observation deck with huge windows that looked out into space. The view was incredible, stars scattered like diamonds against the black, and the gas planet filling most of the sky with its swirling colors. But Jake barely noticed the view. Standing in the center of the deck was a woman, though calling her a woman didn't feel quite right. She was tall, much taller than any human he had ever seen. Her skin seemed to glow with a soft silver light that shifted to blue as she moved. Her hair floated around her head as if she were underwater, and when she turned to look at him, her eyes were the deep black of empty space. She stopped singing the moment she saw him. For several seconds, they just stared at each other through the thick glass that separated the observation deck from the corridor where Jake stood. Her face showed surprise at first, then something that looked almost like hunger. She moved toward the glass with steps that seemed to flow rather than walk. When she spoke, her voice came through the station's communication system somehow, even though Jake couldn't see any speakers nearby. Finally, she said, and her voice had that same musical quality as her singing. "After so many years of waiting, you have come to me." Jake's heart started beating faster. He took a step back from the glass, but she pressed her hands against it from the other side. Where she touched, the surface seemed to shimmer slightly. "You are mine now, little one," she continued, and there was something in her voice that made Jake think of a cat that had cornered a mouse. "I've been so lonely waiting here. But now you will stay with me, and everything will be as it should be." Jake realized he was in serious trouble. This wasn't just an abandoned station. Someone, or something, lived here. And from the way she was looking at him, like he was exactly what she had been hoping to find. He was pretty sure she didn't plan to let him leave when his rescue ship arrived. He needed to think fast. The woman was between him and the way back to the docking bay. Even if he could get past her, he had no idea how to operate the station's systems or call for help early. His handheld communicator couldn't reach beyond the local system. The woman tilted her head, studying him with those impossible black eyes. "Do not be afraid," she said, though her smile was the kind that made Jake even more nervous. "I will take very good care of you. We have so much time together now, forever and always." Jake's hand moved instinctively to his helmet, which he had clipped to his belt. Maybe if he'd put it back on and activated his emergency beacon. But would anyone even be close enough to hear it out here? As these thoughts raced through his mind, he made a decision that would change everything. Without really thinking about why, he reached up and pulled off the lightweight cap he had been wearing underneath his helmet. His brown hair fell across his forehead, and suddenly the air around him felt different. The effect on the woman was immediate and shocking. Her confident expression melted away like ice in hot water. Her glowing skin flickered rapidly between silver and blue, and she stumbled backward from the glass as if it had suddenly become burning hot. "No," she whispered, and now her voice sounded broken, frightened. "No, this cannot be real. You are. You are... ... She couldn't seem to finish the sentence. Instead, she sank to her knees on the observation deck, staring at Jake with what could only be described as terror. Her whole body was shaking, and the musical quality in her voice had been replaced by something that sounded almost like crying. Jake stood frozen in the corridor, completely confused by what had just happened. 1 second she had been confident and possessive, talking about keeping him forever. Now she looked like she had seen the most frightening thing in the universe. "You are one of the lost ones," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "The forbidden. This cannot be happening, my people. They will never believe this." Jake had absolutely no idea what she was talking about, but one thing was clear. Seeing his human face had changed everything. Whatever game they had been playing, the rules had just been completely rewritten, and somehow she got the feeling that being one of the lost ones was either going to save his life or make his situation infinitely more complicated. Jake watched through the glass as the alien woman knelt on the observation deck floor, her whole body trembling. Her silver-blue skin kept flickering like a broken light, and she was making sounds that reminded him of someone crying, though they had that same musical quality as her voice. "Hey," Jake said softly, pressing his palm against the glass. "Are you okay?" She looked up at him with those deep black eyes, and Jake could see something like panic in them. "Okay?" she repeated, her voice shaking. "Nothing will ever be okay. Again, do you understand what you are? What this means?" Jake shook his head. "I'm just a plant researcher from the outer colonies. My name is Jake. I study how to grow food in space environments. I don't know what you mean by lost ones, or forbidden." The woman stared at him for a long moment, then slowly stood up. She moved differently now, not with that confident predatory grace from before, but carefully, as if she was afraid she might break something just by walking. "My name is Zara," she said finally. "I am Valter." "You are human." "Well, yeah," Jake said. "Is that a problem?" Zara made that crying sound again. "A problem. Jake of the humans, your entire species has been dead for 300 years. Your worlds went silent. Your ships stopped coming. We searched everywhere, found nothing but empty colonies, and rusted stations. The Galactic Council declared humanity extinct decades ago. Jake felt his stomach drop. That's impossible. Earth is fine. The colonies are fine. I just came from Titan Station last week. There were thousands of people there. No, Zara whispered. You don't understand. The Great Silence happened in the year your people called 2087. Every human world. Every human ship, every human station, all went dark at the same time. No distress calls, no explanations, nothing. It was like your entire species just ... vanished. Jake's mind raced. He knew Earth's history pretty well, and 2087 was definitely not when humanity went extinct. That was actually around the time of the Great Expansion, when humans started spreading out to more distant star systems. But looking at Zara's terrified face, he could tell she absolutely believed what she was saying. Maybe your people just lost contact with us somehow, Jake suggested. Space is huge. Maybe we just ended up in different parts of the galaxy. Zara shook her head violently. You don't understand what humans meant to us. We would never have stopped looking. Could never have stopped looking. She moved closer to the glass again, but this time her approach was cautious, almost reverent. Jake, your people were not just another species to us. You were ... special, unique in all the galaxy. Special how? Zara pressed both hands against the glass and closed her eyes. My people, the Valtor, we have a problem. We call it the withering. Our life force, our very souls, they fade over time. Without renewal, we die young and weak. For thousands of years, we suffered this curse. Jake listened, fascinated despite his confusion. Then we met humans, Zara continued, opening her eyes. Your people had something we had never encountered before, a life energy so strong, so pure, that being near humans could heal the withering. Not just slow it down, actually reverse it, like some kind of healing power. More than that. Humans could share their life force with us through something we called the bond. It was... Zara paused, searching for words. Imagine if you could. Feel what another person feels. Think their thoughts. Share their dreams. The bond made Valtor and humans into something greater than either could be alone. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This was starting to sound less like a partnership, and more like something else. What did humans get out of this bond? Zara looked away. Your people lived longer, grew stronger, gained abilities you never had before. The bond was supposed to benefit everyone. The truth is complicated, Zara said quietly. Some humans loved the bond. They said it made them feel complete, like they had found their missing half. But others... She trailed off. Others what? Others said it felt like slavery. That once bonded, they could never truly be free again. Your governments began to restrict the bond, then banned it entirely. They said Valter were parasites, that we were stealing human souls. Jake was beginning to understand why his presence terrified her. So when humans went silent, we thought your people had decided to cut all contact rather than risk the bond. We respected that choice, even though it meant our own doom. Without humans, the withering returned stronger than ever. My people have been dying slowly for 3 centuries. Zara looked directly at Jake again. I volunteered for this mission because I believed I would die out here searching for traces of your people. I was supposed to catalog abandoned human settlements and report back on what resources might be salvaged. Finding you alive, it changes everything. How? If humans still exist, if your species survived the Great Silence, then maybe the withering can be stopped. Maybe my people don't have to face extinction after all. Jake felt the weight of what she was saying. But you're scared of me? Why? Zara's skin flickered faster, because I can already feel it starting. Feel what? A bond, she whispered. Just being near you, talking to you, it's awakening something in me that has been dormant my entire life. My grandmother was one of the last Valtor to experience the bond before the Great Silence. She used to tell me stories about what it felt like. Jake noticed something strange. Now that Zara mentioned it, he was feeling odd too. Like there was a warm current running between them, even through the glass. When she was afraid, he felt anxious. When she seemed hopeful, his mood lifted. I can kind of feel something too, he admitted. Zara nodded. That's how it begins. The bond seeks to complete itself. But Jake, if my people discover you exist, they will never let you leave. They will want to study you, learn from you, use you to save our entire species. And you don't want that? I want my people to survive, Zara said. But not if it means forcing you into something you don't choose. The old bonds were made willingly, between individuals who cared for each other. What my people might do to you would be different. Desperate people do desperate things. Jake looked at this strange, glowing woman who seemed genuinely concerned about his well-being, even though saving her entire species might depend on him. So what do we do? I don't know, Zara admitted. My ship will arrive in 2 days to pick me up. I was supposed to report that this sector was empty of human presence. But now you have to decide whether to tell them about me. Yes, and Jake. Zara's voice was very quiet now. I need you to know that whatever I decide, it won't be easy. I've been alone for so long, and you are the first person I've spoken to in months. The bond is already making me care about you. In ways that frighten me. Jake felt that warm current again, stronger this time. Looking at Zara, he realized he was starting to care about her too, despite everything. She could have lied to him, could have tried to trick him or force him somehow. Instead, she was being completely honest about the danger he was in. Maybe we can figure out a third option, Jake said. Something that helps your people without making me a prisoner. For the first time since she had seen his face, Zara smiled. It was a sad smile, but there was hope in it too. Maybe, she said. We have 2 days to try. Over the next several hours, Jake and Zara found a way to override the observation deck's security locks. Jake was surprised by how easily they worked together, almost like they could read each other's minds. When he thought about trying to access the station's main computer, Zara was already pointing toward the control room. When she wondered about the power systems, Jake was already heading toward the engineering section. This is weird, Jake said as they walked through the station's main corridor. It's like I know what you're thinking before you say it. Zara nodded, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim lighting. The bond is strengthening. My grandmother told me it would happen this way. First the emotional connection, then shared thoughts, then ... Then what? I'm not sure. She died before she could tell me everything. They reached the station's central computer core, a room filled with humming processors and blinking lights. Jake sat down at the main terminal and started typing. His fingers seemed to know exactly which commands to use, even though he had never seen this type of system before. That's strange, he muttered, scrolling through data files. According to these records, Kepler-7 wasn't just a research station. It was something much more important. Zara looked over his shoulder at the screen. Jake could smell something like flowers and starlight from her hair, which was impossible but somehow made perfect sense. What kind of research? She asked Jake. Opened another file, consciousness transfer technology. They were trying to figure out how to move human thoughts and memories from one body to another, or even from a human body into a computer system. Why would humans want that? Look at this, Jake said, pointing to a video file. He clicked on it, and a hologram appeared in the center of the room. Showed a human woman in a lab coat standing next to some complex equipment. Personal log, Dr. Chen, day 847 of the Kepler-7 project, the hologram said. We've made a breakthrough in understanding the quantum nature of consciousness. It appears that human awareness exists on multiple dimensional levels simultaneously. This might explain the reports we've been getting from the outer colonies about psychic connections with non-human species. Jake and Zara exchanged glances. Psychic connections, Zara whispered. The bond. The hologram continued. More concerning are the reports that these connections seem to drain human life force over time. Command is considering a complete communication blackout with all alien species until we can understand what's happening. Jake felt his blood turn cold. The great silence. This is where it started. They continued watching as more holograms played. Each one revealed another piece of the puzzle. Earth's government had discovered that the bond with Velter was slowly killing humans, but so gradually that most people didn't notice. The Velter grew stronger and lived longer, while humans grew weaker. We didn't know, Zara said, and Jake could feel her genuine horror through their growing connection. We thought the bond helped both species. If we had known it was hurting humans, your people would have stopped. Zara was quiet for a moment. What to believe we would have. But we were dying without the bond. And when people are desperate. Jake found more files, including detailed medical scans showing how the bond affected human brain chemistry. It looks like the connection rewired human neural pathways. It's made people emotionally dependent on their Valter partners. Some humans couldn't function without the bond once it formed. Like an addiction, Zara said sadly. That's probably why Earth cut all communication. It was the only way to break the connections and save humanity. They continued exploring the station's database, looking for anything that might help them understand how to create a bond that wouldn't hurt either species. Jake was amazed by how naturally he and Zara worked together. She seemed to understand the technical data almost as well as he did. While he found himself instinctively grasping concepts about Velter biology that should have been completely foreign, Zara said suddenly, "I'm feeling something strange." "What kind of strange?" "Stronger, more alert. Like my mind is working better than it has in years." She paused. "Are you feeling anything different?" Jake thought about it. He did feel different, more creative, more intuitive. Problems that would normally take him hours to solve seemed obvious now. "Yeah, actually. It's like my brain is running faster. The old records from my people spoke of this. Humans and Valter together became more than either could be alone. But the price... Maybe the price doesn't have to be so high," Jake said. "Look at this." He'd found a file labeled Experimental Protocol 7, Balanced Neural Exchange. The document described a theoretical way to create the bond without the harmful effects. Instead of Valter drawing life force from humans, both species would share their strengths equally. According to this, the problem wasn't the bond itself, Jake explained. It was that the connection only went one way. Valter took from humans, but didn't give back equally. If both species contributed to the connection, we could help each other instead of one using the other, Zara finished. They spent the next few hours going through the experimental data. The more they learned, the more excited they became. The scientists on Kepler-7 had been close to solving the problem when the Great Silence happened. They had developed equipment that could monitor and balance the energy exchange during a bond. "We could test it," Jake said. "The equipment is still here. If the theory is right, we could create a bond that makes both of us stronger instead of hurting either one." Zara looked uncertain. "It's dangerous. If something goes wrong, we'll be in the same situation we're in now," Jake pointed out. "Your people are dying and mine don't even know you exist. At least this way we might find a solution." Through their growing connection, Jake could feel Zara's internal struggle. She wanted to help her people, but she was terrified of hurting him. At the same time, he could sense her loneliness. She had been alone for so long that the thought of a true companion was almost too wonderful to believe. "There's something else," Zara said quietly. "I haven't told you everything about why I volunteered for this mission." "What do you mean?" "I told you I expected to die out here." "That's true. But the reason I was willing to die..." She paused. "Looking away was already dying, Jake. The withering affects some Velter more severely than others. I probably have less than a year left, even if I return home." Jake felt a sharp pain in his chest that he realized wasn't his own emotion, but hers. "Zara... That's why finding you means so much to me. Not just because you might save my people, but because for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm fading away. Being near you makes me feel alive again." Jake reached out and pressed his hand against the glass wall that still separated them. Zara did the same from her side. The moment their palms lined up, Jake felt a surge of warmth and connection, unlike anything he had ever experienced. "We'll figure this out," he said. "Together." For the first time since they had met, Zara's smile was completely genuine. "Together," she agreed as they stood there. Hands pressed against the glass between them, both Jake and Zara could feel something changing. The bond was growing stronger, but it felt different from what the old records described. Instead of one person taking from the other, it felt like they were building something new together, something that might just save both of their species. Jake woke up on the second day to the sound of alarms echoing through the station. He had fallen asleep in the research lab, his head resting on a pile of data files. Across the room, Zara was standing perfectly still, her skin flickering between colors faster than he had ever seen before. "What's happening?" Jake asked, rubbing his eyes. "My ship," Zara said, her voice tight with worry. "It's arriving early, and it's not alone." Jake joined her at the window. In the distance, he could see lights moving against the stars. Not just one ship, but several. As they got closer, Jake could make out the strange, organic curves of Valter spacecraft. They looked more like living creatures than machines, with surfaces that seemed to pulse and breathe. "How many?" Jake asked. "A full rescue fleet," Zara replied. "That means something terrible has happened on my homeworld." As if summoned by her words, a communication signal crackled through the station's speakers. The voice that came through spoke in the musical language of the Valter, but Jake found he could understand some of it now. The bond between him and Zara had grown strong enough that he was picking up pieces of her knowledge. "Commander Zara," the voice said in accented English. "This is Fleet Leader Keth. We have received your initial reports about this sector. We are coming aboard immediately." To discuss urgent developments, Zara moved to the communications panel. "Fleet Leader, I was not expecting pickup for another day. Is everything well on the homeworld?" There was a pause before Keth replied. "The withering has accelerated beyond all predictions. We lost 3 entire city districts in the past week alone. The Council of Elders has authorized emergency protocols. Any lead, no matter how small, must be investigated immediately." Jake felt his stomach drop. Through the bond, he could sense Zara's emotions, fear for her people mixed with terror about what they might do to him. "I understand," Zara said carefully. "I will prepare my reports for your review. Commander, your preliminary scans mentioned unusual energy readings in this sector. Have you discovered anything that might be relevant to our situation?" Zara looked at Jake, and he could feel her internal struggle as clearly as if it were his own. She could lie, tell them she found nothing, and protect him. But that would mean condemning her entire species to extinction, or she could tell the truth and watch as her people turned him into a laboratory subject. I need a few more hours to compile the data," Zara said finally. "Very well. We will dock in 1 hour." Keth out. The communication ended, leaving Jake and Zara alone with the weight of the decision ahead of them. "You could hide," Zara said quietly. "The station is large. I could tell them I found nothing, and you could stay hidden until they leave." Jake shook his head. And then what? "Eventually, someone else would find this place, or I'd die when the life support finally fails. Besides, you heard what he said. Your people are dying faster than ever. How could I live with myself knowing I might have been able to help?" "Help." Zara's skin flashed bright silver. "Jake, you don't understand what desperate people are capable of. If they discover you exist, they won't just ask politely for your assistance. They'll do whatever it takes to save our species, even if it destroys you in the process." Jake had been thinking about this possibility all night. What if we don't give them a choice in how to handle this? "What do you mean? What if we test the balance bond protocol first?" "Right now, before they arrive. If it works, we'll have proof that there's a way to help your people without hurting humans. If it doesn't work," Jake shrugged. "Well, at least we'll know." He stared at him. "You're talking about experimental brain surgery, Jake, with equipment that's 300 years old. If something goes wrong, you could die. Or worse, you could end up trapped in a permanent bond that slowly drains your life away. And if we don't try, your entire species dies anyway," Jake pointed out. "At least this way we have a chance." Through the bond, Jake could feel Zara's love for her people, warring with her growing feelings for him. She had spent her whole life believing she would sacrifice anything to save the Veltor. But now that she cared about someone who might be that sacrifice, the choice wasn't so simple. "There's something else," Zara said. "The balance protocol requires 2 willing participants. If I undergo the procedure with you and something goes wrong, we could both die. My people would lose their only hope of survival and the only human they've found in 3 centuries. Jake moved closer to her. Even with the glass wall between them, he could feel the warmth of her presence. Zara, I've been alone my whole life. I've never had anyone who understood me the way you do. Even if this kills us both, these past 2 days with you have been worth more than all the years I spent by myself." Tears began flowing down Zara's face, though they glowed with the same silver light as her skin. "I have never met anyone like you, Jake, of the humans. In all our stories of your people, none mentioned how brave and selfless you could be." "I'm not brave," Jake said. "I'm terrified. But sometimes you have to do the right thing, even when you're scared." They spent the next 30 minutes preparing the experimental equipment. The process was more complex than Jake had expected. Had to calibrate neural interface devices, set up monitoring equipment, and program the computers with the balanced protocol parameters. "Are you ready?" Zara asked as they stood before the bond chamber. "No," Jake admitted, "but I'm ready anyway." Entered the chamber from opposite sides. Jake lay down on one of the medical tables, while Zara positioned herself on the other. The neural interface devices looked like complex headbands covered in thin wires and sensors. "Jake," Zara said as she placed the device on her head, "if this works, we'll be connected in ways that no human in Valter have ever been before. You'll be able to feel everything I feel, think some of the thoughts I think. Are you sure you want that?" Jake put on his own neural interface. "I can already feel what you feel. What I feel is that you're the most amazing person I've ever met, so yeah, I'm sure." As the machines hummed to life around them, Jake felt the bond between them grow stronger and more complex. Instead of the simple, emotional connection they had shared before, he could now sense Zara's memories, her hopes, her fears for the future. But more importantly, he could feel that the energy was flowing both ways. He was giving strength to Zara, but she was also giving strength to him. His mind felt clearer and more creative than ever before. While through the bond, he could sense that Zara's life force was growing stronger instead of weaker. "It's working," Zara whispered, wonder in her voice. "I can feel your curiosity, your kindness, your determination. And you can feel my knowledge, my intuition, my connection to the universe." Jake smiled. "We're not just human in Velter anymore. We're something new?" As the procedure continued, both of them could sense something unprecedented happening. They weren't losing themselves in the bond. They were becoming more than they had ever been alone. Jake retained his human creativity and compassion while gaining Valter wisdom and perception. Zara kept her intuitive understanding of the cosmos while gaining human determination and ingenuity. When the machines finally stopped humming, they both sat up and looked at each other. The glass wall between them was gone now, dissolved by some process Jake didn't understand but somehow knew it was safe. "How do you feel?" Jake asked. "Alive," Zara said, her skin glowing brighter than ever. "More alive than I have ever been, and you like I finally found the missing piece of myself." Their celebration was interrupted by the sound of docking clamps. Engaging. Fleet Leader Keth and his ships had arrived. "So what do we tell them?" Jake asked. Zara stood up, her posture confident and strong. "We tell them the truth. That humanity isn't extinct, that the bond can be balanced, and that our species have a chance to help each other instead of one using the other. And if they don't listen?" Zara took Jake's hand in hers. Through the bond, he could feel her determination, mixed with his own courage. "Then we show them. Together." The airlock hissed open, and Fleet Leader Keth stepped onto the station. Jake had never seen a male Valtor before. Keth was even taller than Zara, with skin that glowed deep purple instead of silver blue. His eyes held the same starlight quality, but there was something harder about them, more desperate. Behind him came 4 other Valter, all moving with the urgency of people who had no time left to waste. Jake could feel Zara's nervousness through their bond, but also her determination. They had agreed to be completely honest, no matter what happened. "Commander Zara," Keth said, his voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate. "You look different, stronger." "I feel stronger, Fleet Leader," Zara replied. "I have made a discovery that changes everything." Keth's purple skin flickered with interest. "Show me," Zara gestured toward Jake, who stepped forward from where he had been standing behind one of the equipment panels. The effect on the Valter was immediate and dramatic. 3 of them fell to their knees, while another stumbled backward into the wall. Keth himself went completely rigid, his skin cycling rapidly through colors Jake had never seen before. "Impossible," Keth whispered. "You are... ... You cannot be... ... "I'm human," Jake said simply. "My name is Jake, and I'm very much alive." For several long seconds, nobody moved. Jake could feel waves of shock, disbelief, and desperate hope radiating from the Valter through his bond with Zara. It was like being hit by an emotional storm. One of the other Valter finally said, "We have searched. For 300 years, our children have grown up believing humans were myths." "We're not myths," Jake said gently. "We just ended up in a different part of the galaxy after the communication breakdown." Keth took a step forward, his eyes locked on Jake with an intensity that made Jake uncomfortable. "Do you understand what you represent? You are the salvation of our entire species. With you, we can restart the bond. We can cure the withering. Our people can live again." Jake felt Zara tense beside him. This was the moment they had been preparing for. "Actually," Jake said, "we found a better way." "Better?" Keth's skin flashed bright orange. What could be better than the return of the ancient bond? "A bond that doesn't hurt anyone," Zara said, stepping up beside Jake. "Fleet leader, I need you to see something." She led the group to the monitoring equipment they had used during their procedure. The screens still showed the energy readings from their successful experiment. "The old bond was unbalanced," Zara explained. "Valter drew life force from humans, but gave nothing back. That's why humans eventually cut contact. They were being slowly drained." Jake watched Keth's face as understanding dawned. "You mean ... we were killing them?" "Slowly, over many years," Jake confirmed. "Most humans didn't even realize what was happening until your people had become emotionally dependent on the connection. The shame that radiated from the Valter was so strong that Jake felt it through Zara's bond. Several of them made the musical crying sounds he had heard from Zara when she first realized what he was. "But," Zara said quickly, "we found a solution. Jake and I have created a new kind of bond, one that makes both species stronger instead of hurting either one." "That's impossible," Keth said. "The bond is what it is. It cannot be changed." "See for yourself," Jake said. He reached out and took Zara's hand. The moment their skin touched, the air around them began to shimmer with soft light. Jake could feel his awareness expanding, his mind working faster and more clearly than ever before. At the same time, through the bond, he could sense that Zara was experiencing something similar. But more importantly, the monitoring equipment showed that both of them were growing stronger. Energy was flowing between them in perfect balance, each giving as much as they received. The Valtor stared in amazement. "How?" Keth breathed. "The scientists on this station figured out the theory before the Great Silence," Jake explained. "They just never got a chance to test it. The bond can be balanced if both partners contribute equally to the connection. But this means ... double quotes, one of the other Valter said. "It means humans and Valter can help each other without anyone being hurt," Zara finished. "It means both our species can be stronger together than either could be alone." Keth was quiet for a long moment, his skin cycling through colors as he processed what they had shown him. "Jake of the humans," he finally said, "would you be willing to return with us to our homeworld, to help us save our people?" Jake felt a spike of fear from Zara through their bond. She was worried that her people would try to force him into bonds with multiple Valter or keep him prisoner to study him. "I'll come," Jake said, "but as an equal partner, not a prisoner or a cure to be used up. And I want to help establish contact between our species so this never happens again." "You would do this?" Keth asked. "Leave your own people to help ours?" Jake looked at Zara, feeling the warmth of their connection. "I'm not leaving my people behind. I'm building a bridge between our peoples. And besides," he smiled, "I've found something on this journey that I never want to lose." Zara's skin glowed brighter, and through the bond Jake felt her joy and love, mixing with his own. "There's one more thing," Jake added. "This balanced bond works both ways. If Velter come to human space and form these connections with willing humans, it won't just save your people. It'll make humans stronger too. If we could explore the galaxy together, learn from each other, become something greater than either species ever was alone. Keth's expression showed wonder mixed with hope. A true alliance between our species. Exactly, but it has to be voluntary on both sides. No more taking without giving. No more dependencies or addictions. It's just two species helping each other grow. The fleet leader looked around at his crew, then back at Jake and Zara. The council will need to approve this new approach. But given how desperate our situation has become, I believe they will agree to try anything that offers real hope. How long do your people have? Jake asked. At the current rate of the withering, perhaps 2 months before we lose too many too? Maintain our civilization. Jake felt determination flow through him, amplified by his bond with Zara. Then we'd better get moving. As they prepared to leave Kepler 7 station, Jake took one last look around the place where his life had changed. Forever. He thought about the scared plant researcher who had arrived here just 3 days ago, and how different everything was now. Any regrets? Zara asked, sensing his thoughts through their bond. Jake squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth and strength that flowed between them. Just one, he said. What's that? I wish we had more time to explore what we can become together before we have to save 2 entire species. Zara laughed, the musical sound filling the station one last time. Jacob. The humans, we have forever to discover that. Our bond doesn't end when this crisis is over. It's just beginning. As their ship moved away from the station and into the vast galaxy beyond, Jake realized she was right. They weren't just solving an emergency. They were starting a new chapter. In the history of both their peoples, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, stronger than either could ever be alone. The human and the Velter. Bonded not by desperation or need, but by choice and love, sailing toward a future where 2 species could finally become one without losing themselves in the process.